Our species for tonight is the Vidler's Alpine, and this is actually one that we've never done, and part of the reason is because we never completed rearing it. It's a tough one. Vidler, the Vidler's Alpine. The Vidler's Alpine is one of the butterflies, one of the brushfoots in the group we call satyrs or satirids. And it's basically a black butterfly with orange spots on the wings. As you can see here, the shape and pattern of the orange spots is one of the ways you separate this from its nearest relative, which we'll show a little later. Vidler's Alpine flies mostly in high elevation areas, and it lays its eggs. Frankly, I don't know how it lays its eggs because we've never documented how it lays its eggs in the wild. This is in captivity, and they lay their eggs on little red sticks. The Vidler's Alpine flies mostly in high elevation areas, alpine areas. Places like Slate Peak up in the North Cascades is one place where you can usually find them. The eggs are pretty good size, 1.1 millimeter. That's a pretty big egg. And here's what they look like after they've matured a bit. The larvae, when they first hatch, are little pink things. They're kind of attractive little guys with red stripes. And they have little sepia or hairs on their heads. And each of the little dark spots on the body also has the tiny little hair or sepia sticking out. And as they grow older, the pink color disappears. They turn this brownish color, develop a big white stripe down the side. Now these are larvae that feed on grasses and sedges. Again, we don't have a lot of information on which grasses or sedges because it's really hard to find these larvae. And so what we have is essentially we try to rear them in captivity, and whatever they eat in captivity, we know what those plants are, but that doesn't mean that we know what they feed on in the wild. You can see at this stage, third instar, which is pushing a ½ inch long. The larvae develops quite a number of these stubby little sepia, both on the body and on the head. You can see them there too. And we're starting to see on the tip of the abdomen this little kind of a paired appendages, and that's kind of typical of many of the satirids. This is an older one. This is second to last instar, 14 millimeters, and again, at the tip of the tail or abdomen, you can see two little horns sticking back. These are the tails of the satirids. And here's spinal instar. This is a little less than an inch long. They probably get a little longer than this, but this is about as far as we got them. In fact, by we, I mean David James and I when we were rearing larvae for the book. The species, well, yeah, it's the same size. It's the same individual. You can see the sepia are dark and contrasting, and they're pretty much all over the body. Again, here's your look at these two little tails. They're pretty short at this stage. And we did not get the species through to pupae, and so I pulled this off of the internet. This is actually European Arabia. They're probably all pretty similar. The Arabias tend to have pupae that look pretty similar, and so ours probably look very similar to these. Here again is the adult, and this is up in the North Cascades, the habitat that it particularly likes. They dip on just about anything that has nectar. Again, if we look at the orange spot on the ventral side of the forewing, you see that the edges of it are kind of jagged. You see those jaggy areas around the edge of it, and that's one of the things that separates it from the common alpine. Here's the dorsal view of the Vidlers. Again, notice how jagged the edge of the orange patch is. There's actually several different things that separate Vidlers from the common alpine, but that's one of the best field marks. This is the common alpine here, and you can see how the orange patterns don't have that jaggy look. They're a little blurry, but they're pretty much smoother. Let's go back and look at their Vidlers again. See that jaggy area compared to a smoother area. One of the things that was pretty interesting about this butterfly, let's see what our next, here's the habitat. One of the things that was very interesting is we tried to rear this a number of times, and we would get it through, the first year the eggs would hatch and we'd get these little larvae, and they obviously went into diapause, so we had to overwinter them. And the next year, they'd start out okay, we'd feed them various kinds of grasses instead of just trying to find something that they liked. And they would grow glacially, slowly. And that's kind of typical of the butterflies of this group. They're very, very slow. And it's kind of like watching paint dry, but you watch it all summer. And then the frustrating thing for us is we'd get up to August or September, and they simply stop feeding. They would just sit there and sit there stationary. They clearly were going into diapause again, and we could not get them to keep going, to develop onto pupa. That's why you don't have any pictures of pupa. And so finally it dawned on us, one thing that had never been documented before, these have to be double brooded, not double brooded, they have to be biennial, which means the adults fly every second year. Now this was a big surprise because the adults fly every year. So how can this be? And the only reasoning we can come up with, somebody have a suggestion how that could happen?
One group comes out one year, the next group.
Yeah, now you've got two different populations. And
Well, then you have to, I mean, sometimes you have it takes 3 years to get through too. And some years, it only takes 1 year to get through. So like, you know, if the outside, if you had enough sample size, you'd find that while these things may be traditionally biennial for the most part, there's always going to be some that get through in 1 and always going to be some that get through in 3. So the genetic exchange between these two different cohorts is actually pretty free.
Mm-hmm. So there's probably not a lot of difference in the genetics. And yet we have pretty healthy populations. I think like at this location, at Slate Peak, we have pretty healthy populations every year. And as far as we can tell, the ones there, every time we try to root them, they're biennial. And Guppy and Shepard, with their book on the butterflies of British Columbia, a very good book, by the way, they indicated that several other species of Aurelia are biennial, but not this one. Nobody has indicated that this one was, and so it came as quite a surprise for us. That's what the larva looks like. You can see it right there. And that's all I have for Vidler's Alpine. Anyone have questions?
Because we have them in Washington at high elevation, does that mean that they exist in North America further north at lower elevations?
Further south, yeah, probably
So
true.
it's that elevation kind of comes down and down as you go further north then?
Right. And what we found is that with a lot of these biennial species, we don't have a lot of them here, but the several we have, if you get the same species in California, they can develop in a single year. So it takes 2 years here, and then further north, we can even, like John said, they might even take 3 years.
And related to that was the range of Vidler only includes Washington and British Columbia, and even a small part of both of those areas. And that's the total range in the whole world. Their nearest relatives are in Japan, Sakhalin, and the Alps of Europe. So this is a really unusual butterfly in that genus worldwide. As to where it might be bivoltine or even trivoltine, you can't really tell. I think it's kind of a crapshoot even with Aeneas nevadensis. Since climate change has become a topic, that one butterfly, which used to be restricted to odd years only, has now got at least 3 or 4 even-year colonies that are reliable in this state. So that cohort jumping around can happen pretty readily, given the opportunity.
Yeah, this species did not occur in California, but some of the other satyrids that we reared are biennial here and annual. In other words, they developed in 1 year in California. So the folks in California were able to get us pictures of pupae that we just couldn't get through. Rearing the biennial species is really difficult. First of all, you don't get that many through the first winter, and the ones that get through, they've got to go through another winter yet. So you lose all of them, most of the time.
Did you mention the Olympic Mountains in your distribution?
No, I haven't
They're pretty
actually,
abundant in the Olympics.
I haven't actually done anything with them in the Olympics. I know they appeared there. And they're common, like I say, at Slate Peak and north of Winthrop, there's an area by Freeze Out Pass where they're
And
common.
that's about the border, I think. I don't know if they go any further east than that. I've
I
seen.
think
them
Mountain
with-
Pack is about as far east as they get
Yeah,
in Washington.
yeah, that's a pretty limited range. Did somebody say
Yeah,
this?
since you've been collecting at Slate Peak, there was a large burn there probably 5 or 6 years ago. Did you see any change in the population?
The burn didn't hit the part of Slate Peak that we're most interested in for butterflies. It hit the big canyon, the one that goes down toward, what's the little town down there?
Mazama.
Mazama. That goes down toward, that area just got nailed. I mean, it was burned down to the dirt. The high country, as you get to the top of the ridge going up towards Slate Peak, and then you turn right or north up to the peak itself, that area did not get burned. It got pretty well doused with smoke, and a lot of plants looked pretty sick the next year, but they all recovered.
So what the area where you collect is not around the campground area, it's farther up toward the actual peak lookout there?
You gotta go up above Hart's Pass.
Yeah,
Go further up.
Okay.
go clear to the end of the road as far
As
as,
far as pass.
yeah, go clear to the end of the road as far as your car can take you. Actually, the Vidler's Alpine is the best area, if you know where the horse corral is. Around that area is actually a very good area for Vidlers. Yes?
The fifth instar larvae you had was something 20-some millimeters.
Millimeters?
So this is just I just need to translate that in centimeters. Is that like 0.2 centimeters?
2.1.
2.1 centimeters?
Yeah.
21 millimeters.
Oh, that's better. I was gonna say.
That's why they call it the metric. Come on, man.
There's 25 millimeters is an inch for us Americans.
Americans.
It's still pretty small though.
Yes, anybody else?
So how big is the adult if the fifth instar larvae?
The adult butterfly?
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of guess. It's probably a little under 2 inches wingspan.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Yeah, something like that.
Which is centimeters.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dave.